Hello everyone, we are in Pirkei Avot, second parak, Mishnah 15, and let's go. We're still with the Talmidim of Rabban Yochanan Zakkai, and let's see what they have to teach us. So we're on Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Hevei Zahir b'Kirat Shema u'v'Tfilah. Right, a person should be careful with the reading of the Shema and the prayer. Al ta'as tfilatcha keva, ela chachamim v'tachanunim lifnei makom. Right, and do not make your prayers set, fixed, right, automatic. Rather, they should be rachamim, which is mercy, v'tachanunim, which is supplications, lifnei makom, before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before God. Shene'emar, as it says in Yoel chapter 2, verse 13, Ki chanun v'rachum hu erech hapayim v'ram chesed v'nicham al ha'ra'a. Right? For it is said, for he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in kindness, and renouncing punishment. And then finally, and do not be a wicked person in your own eyes, in your own esteem. Fine. So a lot to unpack here, and let's just start from the beginning. A person should be careful with Kriyat Shema and Tefillah. So the Yein Levanon actually comments here, and he says something really interesting. He says this can't mean that a person should be diligent in saying with Kriyat Shema and Tefillah, because we know that that's already a mitzvah. Midoraisa for both. The Kriyat Shema is Mina Torah, is a Torah level mitzvah, and so is Tefillah. In terms of the exact Shemona Esrei, the order in which we say it, that is not Deoraita. That's the Rabbanon. That's how the Anshe Knesset Gedolah said it, and Rav Amram Gaon, I believe, made the first siddur. But what it's talking about here is just the base mitzvah to daven to God once a day. We already know that that's a mitzvah in the Torah. That can't be what Rabbi Shimon is teaching us, because he assumes we're already doing that. Rather, what he's saying is, the type of advice he's giving is similar to what we saw in the beginning of our parak, at the beginning of the second parak, the first Mishnah. It says, Rabbi Omer, Ezohi derech yashar she'yavor laha'adam, etc., and V'hevei zahir b'mitzvah kala kevachamura, which is our language, right? Hevei zahir, a person should be zahir b'kriyat shema v'tfilah. Similarly, hevei zahir b'mitzvah kala kevachamura. Now, clearly, what that first mission is talking about at the beginning of our parak is not, a person should also do mitzvah kalas, just like chamuras. That goes without saying. A person should definitely be doing mitzvahs. What it's saying is, no, a person, how does he phrase it? It's beautiful the way he says it. He says, it's not, the point here isn't that you shouldn't transgress the mitzvah that's more kal. Rather, ela she'ashgiach v'yismach be'asiyatav v'tigdal beinav kechamura. And rather, a person should be as diligent and careful and joyous in the performance of this mitzvah, and should be as important to him, as great to him as a very serious mitzvah. That's what we're looking for. So when we say Hevei Zahir b'Kriyat Shema v'Tfilah, we're saying this should be extremely serious to you. This isn't just okay, look, let me just shake off this burden, say this mitzvah, it's just like everything else. No, these are very important, and if a person is able to do that, then what is the general position of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai? That a person, what's the best midah? A person who's ro'eh et hanolad, right? A person who sees what's going to come with the fruits of his actions. So if a person is able to cling to this idea of being zahir with Kriyat and with Torah, then in such a case, then you'll see the fruits of that. Your Shema will be fantastic. Relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with your appreciation for the mitzvahs and for learning, all those things will fall into place. So that's the Yein Levanon. And then moving on, we go, right? And when you daven, al tas tfilatcha keva, right? A person should not make his tefillah said as automatic. Right? So rather, it should be like mercy and supplications before God. Now we can ask, why? What's the meaning of this? What is the advantage of not making it automatic, but rather it should be like requesting mercy and supplications? What is that? So says Rabbi Yona, he says, you should daven for the things that you need. Why? Because if you don't need them, then you're not going to daven as heartfully. What we're looking to do with tefillah, Rabbi Yona does not say this, but is to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to speak as sincerely and genuinely as we can. And if we're going to start asking for things we don't really care about, we don't really need, then our heart's not going to be in it. And that's not the point of tefillah. In fact, Chazal don't call tefillah, they're praying tefillah, they call it avodah shebalev, service of the heart. I heard this from my friend Ezra, who heard it in turn from an Eish rabbi, whose name I do not know or do not remember. But that's what it is. It's Avot Shebalev. And how are you supposed to have it affect your heart if you don't actually care about these things? If we don't care about what we're davening for? And so says the Rabbeinu Yona that what Rabbi Shimon is teaching us is we need to daven for the things that we need, because that way we'll daven more sincerely. And we can imagine a person who is asking for wealth that we don't really need or care about. It's just because the neighbors care about it, and we want to show off to our neighbors. It'll be like half-hearted. If a person has a sick child, or wants to have a child, or is mamish destitute and needs a job, or any one of those things, and this is something that they really need. So in such a case, then their davening is going to be completely different. And that's another lesson that we learned from this Mishnah. And then finally, the last one, the al tehi chashab bifnei atzmecha. Do not be a rasha in front of yourself. Do not be a wicked person in front of yourself. Why not? So there's a lot of agreement here. Rabbeinu Yona says, because you'll think that you cannot do tshuva, and then you'll despair, and you'll never do tshuva. And in fact, you'll start taking on all these other averas, because you're like, what's the point? What's the point of even trying? I can't do tshuva. So don't be a rush in front of yourself. You got to get your act straight. It's fine. You're capable. It's what you did is done. Do tshuva. Get on the right path, and you'll be fine. Whereas if you think of yourself as a rush, that's never going to happen. Whereas Rambam says it slightly differently, but I don't really know if there's much of a nafkamina, any difference. Because when a person thinks of himself as lowly, then it's kind of hopeless, right? Do not make a lack in yourself greater than it actually is. If you have a character flaw, then fine. Most people have character flaws. Address it, look at it square in the eye, and then work on it. And that way you'll be fine. You will continue to grow and become a better person. I would also like to share a final reading of Ve'al Tiheh Rasha Bifnei Atzmecha from the Ashir. He says, because if you make yourself a rush in front of yourself, what are you going to do? Then you're going to start looking this way and that way, and you're not going to be focusing during davening. And why not? Because you'll think this isn't disrespectful to Kadosh Baruch Hu. God doesn't care if I start looking around and start fixating on different things while I'm davening. He doesn't care what hearing from me in any case. I'm a Rasha, so what's he interested in talking to me for? I can do whatever I want during davening. As he says the Ashir, no, that is what the Mishnah is teaching us. Because if you do make yourself a Rasha in front of yourself, or in your own eyes, then you won't care about your davening. You won't care about your own capacity to grow. And so that's what the Mishnah is warning us against. And that too actually leads very beautifully into the Yein Levanon, saying that you have to be roe et hanolad. Look at what will happen if you continue on this path. If you make yourself a rush in front of yourself, there's no hope of tshuva, there's no hope of change, no hope of you connecting to God during your davening. We'll leave it over there. Take care.